What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. This is CT 3939, and we're here to break down the Bad Batch episode 1, 2, and 3 of season 3. But first, I got to get on my host, my man from Sweden, Marcos. There we go. What's going on?
What's up,
CT
guys? What's up? What's going on, man? Super pumped. Super pumped.
2526 popping on. We got all the mates in the UK joining
Yes.
in. What's
What's
going
up,
on,
man?
brother? Good to see you. So let me put on my hat so that I can see, and let's get this thing on the road. So 3 episodes dropped at midnight, and it was I woke up at 4 yesterday to watch it because I didn't want YouTube or anyone on social media or myself spoiling it because I'm on the interwebs a lot. And I gotta say, something special about waking up for more good Sunday morning cartoons or Saturday morning cartoons,
Right,
even though
right.
it's Wednesday morning. Luckily, my career now is more Star Wars YouTube related, so I can get away with that a little bit more. But yeah, let's dive in. Initial thoughts on just like what was shown so far. We'll break down every single episode, but just curious about your initial thoughts and anyone else watching initial thoughts on episode 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that the thing that stood out like right away was just I think they did such an amazing job on like making you feel like the gravity of the situation, the hopelessness. I think that was like one of the things, it was like the water dripping, the music was so tense. And then they kind of just increased it, turned up the volume, as they went along, I think through all 3 episodes. And then just really feel for me, that last episode, you just felt like the stakes were really high.
Yeah,
And then obviously, what happens at the end. So that was my overall kind of like summary of how I felt about it.
yeah. And for anyone watching, spoiler alert. We're going to be breaking down the show. So, yeah, I agreed. I liked that first episode. The initial part of me was, oh, why aren't we getting massive action first?
Mm,
But it really built the tension in a really good way. And
mhm,
then it was interesting because you have essentially 2 stories they're telling.
mm,
You divvied up the episodes. So episode
mm,
1 focused on Omega with some
mhm,
Crosshair. Then we focused on Wrecker and Hunter. Then we went and focused on
mm,
Omega and Crosshair, which I think some of my favorite episodes are the ones where it is like Crosshair, or not Crosshair, but Wrecker and Hunter. They go on the mission of the day, and they're going to survive, but it's
mhm,
um they're introducing some new enemy, or they're pulling in some new reference like a Gunji on Kashyyyk, or like
mhm,
they run into Rex on Braca. And so I like those are fun, but at the same time the Omega stuff has a ton of connection to the original trilogy, Palpatine, Project Necromancer. I did a
I saw
lore
that.
video on that yesterday, so did a big deep dive on that. So I'm excited to talk about that. But let's break down episode by episode and just some things that stood out to us. Episode 1, Confined with Omega, to your point, was slow to start and then it really started to pick up. What were some of the things that stood out to you in that episode? And let's go from there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I think the number one was just the um like how hopeless and how separated. Like the Empire does such a great job at this, right? They're masters at really trying to bring prisoners or anybody that they're they're kind of standing over, really to a point where they feel that they have nobody out there for them, nobody's coming for you. You're in this hopeless situation and it's pointless to resist. You might as well just fall in line, and they really do such a great job at that. I think you see that with taking away her personal possessions, right? Her the what she the room that she's in is just this blank kind of canvas where you have a little bit of hope because you can see out to the wild, which everything out there can kill you because it's like complete
Yeah,
wild space.
we saw
uh,
that.
yeah, but it's like they give you just enough hope, but again, you feel like your situation is kind of hopeless, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was the first big thing. The second thing was just the dynamic was through between her and Crosshair, and you start to see Crosshair um, have these effects of the testing that they're doing on him. You see a little bit where she kind of catches him with his hand shaking a little bit, and that was
Yeah.
like, and just his overall demeanor, and you see how the clones are, they're transported. They're not even really like, they're not in chains, they're not in anything else, because they're so demoralized and tested on that they've kind of like reached a point of just complete like, not a care in the world, and just so down and depleted that they can't even sustain themselves. So and I think that painted it, that gray kind of painted it, the whole episode. Yeah, so I think that was kind of what stood out to me.
Yeah, that is a really good point in that it feels like there is no hope, but it's not in this big space station, right? This is kind of like a Death Star in the sense where it's like
Mhm,
you're not going anywhere. Like you're stuck here
mhm,
because
mhm,
it's got the giant walls or the steep slope of a mountainside into everything else that'll kill you, which is essentially space. And
mhm,
so I noticed that right away. She didn't even have a blanket on her bed.
mhm.
And we're talking about animated characters in a
Right,
TV show, which I totally
right.
get. But I was like, damn, get this girl a blanket. She's gonna be cold. And there was part of me where I was waiting. Oh, is Emery Carr gonna be maybe more friendly to her, more empathetic?
Mhm,
And she does actually end up having times of that, but she
mm,
just opens the door, get up, we have work to do. And she's just very dry, very focused.
mhm, mhm,
It's weird seeing the tech goggles on her, but then knowing that it's Omega's sister.
mhm,
And then right away in the episode, about 6 minutes in, you've got her plugging the hand, getting the M
mhm.
count,
Right,
which
right, right.
anyone who's seen Star Wars knows that that is not related to your T count. It is related to your midichlorians,
Right, your
which
midichlorian count. Yeah,
more
yeah,
of I was doing some research on that. Midichlorians is basically George Reef fumbling words for your mitochondria,
okay.
which is the
Yeah,
the powerhouse of the cell. So it's kind of
right,
cool that as
right, right,
a science, health, and fitness guy, it's like, oh, he's just tapping into the health of the cell.
right,
But
right.
she is now being tested for her M count
Mhm,
because the clones' blood that they've tested so far
mm,
isn't allowing a full transfer from the abomination, essentially from whatever it is they're testing in the facility. So
mhm.
what were your thoughts on that? Do you
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, and I know we're gonna go deep into Necromancer, but I think it's just so amazing because it is reaching back into sticking to canon and really like um paying, I think, tribute to that, right? We all know kind of where they're going with this, like what Palpatine wants, and to extend himself out via his own clones. So I think that's it's something about seeing Palpatine in this kind of like laboratory setting with uh Hemlock kind of in this mountainside, that is just gives it's a whole new feel to the Star Wars galaxy, I think, because we haven't seen that so much. Mostly it's just they're on Tatooine, or they're in some kind of desert planet, or some type of austere location, or in space, or there's a gun battle, you see these like massive battles, and now
or
it's
even
something.
a political space,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's sand, it's snow, it's ocean, it's essentially all of the
Mm,
climates that you could be in, and all the planet types
mhm.
or space station, but we never really see the research side of things, and it has a little bit of a comic book feel to it.
Yeah, it does, absolutely, 100%. I think it's just something about like seeing what was happening, and I think you mentioned this in your video. This is 19 ABY, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, it's something about it, because you knew obviously the empire is growing, they're expanding, but we never really see kind of like what is happening, at the highest levels behind the scenes. We
yeah,
never see that, right? It's always from the rebels perspective, versus the empire, and that whole fight. And now we're seeing kind of like what were the actual like deeds that they were carrying out behind the scenes, and I think that's super cool to kind of see that.
yeah,
So yeah, that's kind of what stood out to me, I think.
yeah. Progressing through the episode,
Mm,
Ahsoka or not Ahsoka, Omega
Mm.
Getting my shows mixed up. Omega goes and takes the blood samples to Nala Se, which I
Mm.
gotta say, there are so many Tonwees, Nala Se's, Nala Sue's, Mary Sue's. Anytime I'm doing any kind of research on the
Dr. Seuss.
on all the Kaminoans, I'm like, these people are just they just have like 4 or 5 letters in their alphabet,
Right.
and it's just
Right.
Llama, Nama, and
Right.
Llama. But Nala Se has got some cojones because she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
takes the blood and
Mm.
deposits it.
Right.
Not a single camera apparently in one of the most guarded and important research facilities for Emperor Palpatine. Whereas
Mm.
in the New Hope, there was probably 50 cameras in detention block. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They
Exactly.
like that's like a 2-minute clip of them shooting cameras. So that's security's got to tighten up there because she's
Yeah.
just
I don't know. I
literally
mean, it seems like Nanase is like really trying. She's definitely like, acting against in small ways to resist the empire. So maybe she negotiated like, and this is obviously now we're just like, is kind of
speculating. Yeah.
no, yeah, I'm speculating here, but maybe she just negotiated. It seems like she's negotiating certain concessions that she can actually probably get away with because she's like, hey, in order to do the best work, I need you to give me this space here, right? I need
Yeah.
you to. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely an oversight. I think that it kind of also speaks to the arrogance and the hubris of Dr. Hemlock and really like the high command of what we see in the Empire. So is that they feel that they have such control over it that they can allow these small concessions to their prisoners.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
She acted quickly. That I think that was you feel like okay, like she knows the deal, she knows what's going on. At this point, Omega is still kind of ignorant to that. She really doesn't understand like why she's doing what she's doing. Obviously until we get to that point. So
Yep.
but yeah.
Yep. Next in the episode, she ends up doing some of her chores and tasks, and then she goes and feeds the Lurka,
Mhm.
which are essentially pig dogs. And I love how whenever they introduce new animals, because it's just essentially 3 random things, and they bring it together and then give it a temperament of a 4th.
Right.
So Batcher, she starts feeding. And kind of right then I knew, okay, this is how she's getting out because they showed the path that the Lurka go through and go
Right.
to.
Right. Right.
And so I thought it was kind of smart, kind of cool. Just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
little tasks that they're giving her, and she's clearly getting smarter too.
Right.
I'll say this about Omega. I always kind of been put off by her naivete.
Hmm.
Like she could literally see Darth Vader in the other hall and be like, "Come on, guys, we can convince him to maybe let us borrow a ship." Like you
Right. Right.
can't give up hope.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
just like, okay,
There's
dude,
good in him.
Omega. Like she's not the all powerful. She is the
No, no.
Omega. But
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I mean, it's no, absolutely. I mean, but you see that she's definitely like, she's not this doe-eyed deer. I mean, she definitely like has. You see that like how much her time spent in the squad has rubbed off on her tactical sense. Like she really is. There was this is something. It was something super subtle, but you see that she immediately, like in the beginning of the episode, and this goes back to like pilots that are captured and stuff like that. They go through the, evasion school. And it's, you see that she's trying to develop rapport with her captor
mhm,
immediately. Like, and she's like, she knows that, Emery is like super cold fish. She's like, just wants to stick to the script, like what they need to do. But she's talking to her, or Omega talks to her as if she's, hey, she's trying to find commonality, right? Obviously, dropping the sister, asking her about her work, what she feels about certain things, like little things like that is, starting to erode at this kind of facade that Emery has put up around her, which is protocol. But in its small little ways of resistance of trying to, get her to see Omega as a sister, as a human, instead of just a number. And I think that was like super subtle. And Emery is like really trying to like, she doesn't realize what's happening, but she's trying to bypass it, but she keeps coming back to it. She's like, oh yeah, yeah, Omega will go along with it, but then immediately try to get back into rapport. Oh yeah, this is how we're alike. This is how we, and then she immediately tries to bring her back into that step. And I thought that was masterful. And you see that is something that she's learned, and that's something that, and not necessarily from the Bad Batch. I think that's something innate that she has. She creates rapport really, really quickly with people. And now in this case, it's getting her captors to kind of see her as more than just a number. So I think that's interesting, and I think we'll see more of that. And you saw Emery is thinking twice as well. She definitely had a moment where probably she'd never had that before, and like, what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I want to kind of dive into that. That's an interesting angle, just what you were talking about with being trained to build rapport with your captors. We could maybe spend like a minute or two on what you were taught as a Marine, because I initially would think if you immediately go in and try and build rapport with someone who's immediately hostile, then they would hate you even more. Versus if you just be avoidant of causing them any problems and then build rapport. And obviously Omega's been in captivity for a while, but is that like an immediate thing that you would want to do, like even day one?
I mean, I think that if you are captured, I mean, you definitely, like, you're only obligated to give name, rank, serial number, stuff like that, right? But if you're gonna, you don't understand how long you're gonna be in captivity, you definitely want you're at a disadvantage. So you're trying to understand the lay of the land. You're trying to understand, who exactly, like, where you're at, who's holding you. If you can get these people to actually see you as a human, and it gave her, if you notice that, it gave her enough of an outing where Emery actually hesitated, and that was enough, that's all they needed to actually move forward and get out of the chute and move on. And that's what you're looking for, right? You're like, can you exploit this relationship, when the time is right? Right, when you're not that you're going to try to do something overt, but it's really just you're eroding slowly, like a stream going through a rock bed, right? You're just
Yeah.
slowly eroding at certain things and starting to exploit relationships, equipment, whatever you can, until the time is right, and you can actually, so it's kind of like a very, very, very slow resistance, if you will.
Yep. Yep. And she kind of does that on Crosshair too. He's so beaten down. And this is kind of what made me flip on her. She just has so much belief in the best in people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of like Luke. I saw a post where it was talking about the heroine's journey for her. And it definitely is focusing on that a lot more, where she is the main focus. And I was like, you know what? I'll be damned if I'm not pro fighting for the 5% of good inside someone. With Crosshair, maybe not be as the dark side, but she's been hammering on him for 3 seasons. So
Yeah.
I kind of thought that was cool. And
Yeah.
then towards the end of the episode, you see the Dr. Hemlock. And I
Yes.
said this in my Project Necromancer video, or maybe a different video that I made, but this guy is the perfect Bond villain.
Yeah.
He's
Oh my
got
God. He's just, he's
the
a
hair, the blue eyes,
yeah.
the kind of glove that is just a mangled hand from him probably holding too much hemlock, something. And you see them, when I say them, Nala Se and Dr. Hemlock going into that closely guarded
Very sick.
section.
Yeah.
Very Sithy. And then what did you have on the commandos being the guards of everything? Do you think that's because they're getting rid of the clones and they figured, oh, we have these people that we can use that are better than TKs? Or are they actually saying, oh, no, the Republic commandos are the best of the best. We want them here because this project is so important.
I mean, I think that if you see that, obviously there's still TKs there, but because I don't think there's enough, commandos, and it's also like strange because I think commandos actually because they had such like advanced thinking, and really kind of independent. I think they had to shut them down. Like they would go out for a mission, and then when they would come back, they would basically put them like in a sleep state. At least that was my understanding from, I think, the video game, and those that had came out, but it seems like they're like team leaders or squad leaders for the TK troopers to kind of keep them in line. But yeah, I mean, we know that they're, obviously an advanced, kind of model clone. And I don't think that they have enough resources to actually, maybe not resources, but maybe it's a training, or growth, limitation. But it seems like they're creating them in strategic batches to basically guide the TK troopers and kind of meet in the middle between this highly evolved clone trooper, or the clone commando, to the TK troopers, who are very kind of more of a blunt instrument, and maybe not so,
Yeah.
not special. So
I'd almost
um,
like to be in the HR meetings or the review board of the executives over at Mount Tantus, where they're like, all right, clone troopers,
right,
they're good, but we got to cut them because they're too expensive. The
right,
TKs, we know they suck, but they're cheap labor. But the Republic Commandos are
right,
expensive, but they're worth it. And it's like they're
okay.
getting rid of the clones, but then
Mm,
they're keeping the elite clones,
mm.
and then they're building out the TKs. I think that relationship's kind of funny to me because
Yeah,
how I read it is they're like, yeah, we know the clones were way better the entire time. That's why they're guarding this really important facility and
right,
training our whatever people. But you're totally right. I remember in the Public Commando books, those guys needed to take a load off after missions. Like they couldn't just hammer out mission after mission after mission.
yeah,
And now you've got these guys just coaching TKs.
yeah. And I don't know if, and like I said, I can't remember where I saw it, but I think that the main commando that's, like personal security detail for
Torch.
Hemlock is, yeah, he's like one of the main, guys from the game, right?
Yeah.
One of the commandos from the game. What's his name?
Scorch, which I think
Course. I
it's
saw a
cool to
video.
see. Yeah, it's cool to see. I think the other thing some fans have a gripe with, which I totally get, is just how the Republic Commandos were supposed to be super badass. Scorch
Mhm.
was supposed to be super badass, and now they're just lapdog cannon fodder in a
Right.
way for the Bad
Right.
Batch and for this project. But at the same time,
Mm.
I'll take named clones over non-named clones. So
Right. No, 100%, 100%. So, um, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, last little like piece here, as far as, we mentioned it before, but the Lurka, is that conversation. Like when she released the Lurka out, um, one, I just liked how she executed on, really, like, she sees something and she just rolls with it. She's so good at really just improvising, and I think that's so amazing to see that like she just has that now. She's trained, she's been through so many missions, and now she just acts. She's very strategic. She understands like what needs to happen. And Crosshair kind of brings her back to that later on, right? Where he's asking, "What's your main directive? What's the main mission?" But um, Hemlock comes out and he's like, "I didn't know you were so cruel." And she's like, "What do you mean?" And you released, a domesticated animal into the wild who for sure is going to get killed. And
yeah,
she's like, "You know that?" And he's like, "Yeah, what you did is no different from what I was going to do, except yours is much crueler." So he's definitely, he loves to play these mind games.
yeah, he's a mind game master for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
and
yeah,
intimidation as well. So
absolutely.
let's move on to episode 2, Paths Unknown. But before we do, we are also on this channel releasing Bad Batch genetic mutations, desirable mutations, 30-day challenge. So the Hunter one was released yesterday. Crosshair is going to be released today, and we'll release 5 a week. But essentially, it's a Bad Batch themed workout plan. And you can go to the link in the description to join the community that we've started to build out for that. It's about 250 troopers strong. And really, what we're trying to do is gather clones for the clone uprising and make sure that Hunter and the Bad Batch have all the reinforcements they need to take down Mount Tantus. But I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. It is truly the best and most fun way to lose weight, to build muscle, especially if you're a beginner nerd, just not familiar as much with the gym and want to get started, or maybe you know what you're doing and you just want something fun to do. It's definitely something that thousands of people have seen results with, enjoyed. And so link to the community, link to the challenges, all going to be down below in the comments and descriptions. So we'll take that shameless plug and transition into Paths Unknown, because this episode opens up, I think it's the Deveron is the species that have the horn on the head. And it opens up
Yes.
with some
Yeah.
creepy demon queen
Yeah.
and some other guy who gets the axe. But I believe this was a callback to a previous episode where they cut off his
Mhm.
horn. right?
Yeah,
And
he
so
did,
the
yeah,
Bad Batch go and bounty hunt and save him. So
yeah,
I thought that was kind of a cool tie-in, and that's how they get the intel.
right, 100%. I thought it was super fun to see him again. Roland is his name, and um, you could see that he overstepped his bounds from the first interaction that they had, and trying to kick out Sid. I believe he had kicked her
Mhm.
out and
Yeah,
kind of
trying to kick it out.
yeah, he took over that space. Um, and I thought it was just really neat that it had a really, really like Game of Thrones vibe when they came in. If you remember, like the Moon Door or whatever it's called, I
Yeah.
think Game of
Yeah, the
Thrones.
moon door with,
Yeah,
the Eerie.
yeah, yeah. So that was the feel that I had from that, and I thought it was super cool. And it just like the way they came in, I think it was you could see that Hunter and Wrecker have been through the ringer. Like their gear's even more weathered.
Yeah, their armor is weathered.
Yeah, they're definitely more. You can see that they've been through it. You can see that they are desperate, which the Queen picks up on as well. That they were able to, go and track down this Pike, which obviously is no laughing matter because everybody knows that the Pikes will, basically they'll avenge, whatever you do. So I thought that was super interesting. I mean, they come in there, they're on a mission. They really don't care. They just need to get to the next step in order to find Omega, and you can feel that in how they're acting. So I thought that was super fun for them to bring back Roland and really kind of have that throwback, and then casually throw his horn so he could reattach it.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get the intel, and it kinda bothered me when Hunter's talking about how, or yeah, Hunter and Wrecker, Echo and Rex, they need 2 more rotations, and then they can give us reinforcements, and he's like, "We gotta go now."
Hmm.
And, like, I get that you want Omega, but then now it's like he's kinda doing the Omega thing where I'm like, "Dude, you got 2 of the most goated 501st members
Right,
of all time coming to give you backup." Like, you don't want to
right,
wait 2 days because that's what a
right,
rotation is, right? It's planetary rotation,
right, right, right.
guessing. Um, that everything I've read is that's what it is. So, anyway, they take the intel, and I don't think they gave us a planet name, but they show up on this or not island, but a kind of rainforest type planet, and right away, they run into some clones, which I
Right.
thought was cool.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I think that's super interesting. And you see like the resilience from these kind of clone cadets, I guess that were there. And I think it was just a super interesting way to kind of like preview that as connecting this kind of new generation that was left to the wild, and then they have Hunter Wrecker, and then reconciling this whole feeling of abandonment. I think between what they were feeling after they got left there, and then I think they were touched by Wrecker and Hunter as loyalty, right? They mentioned that loyalty to Omega, and they were just like kind of a little bit thrown off by that, as obviously all they got was orbital bombardment. So
Yeah. Did you catch who voiced the clone cadets?
no, I did. I was listening for that. Who was
Is
with?
Daniel Logan. They got Daniel
Okay.
Logan to do the
Ah,
the
yeah, okay. Yeah, I didn't check out the credits at the end, but I was like, why does it sound so familiar?
yeah.
Um, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
so that was a cool little Easter egg, and
Yeah.
then they go into another Imperial facility, which was something I mentioned in the Project Necromancer video, but there's a lot of these facilities, and we only know of 2. There's Borvio, which was Camino in the sky. You had, obviously, Camino, and then
Mhm,
this was a facility where they were working on Project Necromancer.
mhm,
So, you essentially have those 3 plus Mount Tantus, plus
mhm,
whatever else is out there.
mhm.
It just kinda goes to show, like, how many resources the Empire is diverting to this project, because they just throw it out. He's like, "You will have whatever resources you need." He probably said something a little bit different, but yeah,
Yeah, no, I think that's what he said, yeah.
they go digging into this research center, and
Mhm.
the best way I can think of it is the vine thing they were fighting reminded me of the flood from Halo. Do you remember that?
No, 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 I don't. I don't you know what, to be honest, I've never played Halo. I gotta I know I know it's horrible.
Turn off the stream. No, but it's just like
Somebody
those.
asked me that yesterday.
So they had the vines, right? And we've seen vines or that are kind of just big vine things. But then
Mhm.
the little things that would break off, the little like legs that would run that looked kind of like
That was terrifying. I was like,
the
"Oh my
the
god."
the pretzel peanut butter clusters. That's what it reminded me of.
Oh my gosh, those are the worst. I was
Yeah,
like,
if
anything
anyone remember,
is like
yeah,
is
or Alien. Yeah, it kind of had the
yeah,
Alien vibe as
I
well.
was
So it
like,
was like a
oh
viney Alien, and
yeah,
I'm just like, dang, that's a that's a good kind of creepy, not necessarily villain, but beast for them to fight. And you
yeah,
know they're gonna make it the entire time, and you kind of see ahead because you've seen the play ran so many times.
right,
The cadets go and steal the ship,
mm,
but then it's also a way for them to save the day. And they
right,
save it by dropping a giant explosion thing inside the mouth of,
yeah,
again, a creepy
yeah,
rancor looking vine.
right, right,
I'd, I'd love to see some sort of behind the scenes on what that thing is shaped like, because that
yeah.
thing was gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a million teeth. No, absolutely. I think that was so exciting, though. I mean, you see, obviously, you know they're gonna make it out, but it's just, I think that's one of the best things about the Bad Batch. They just get put in these situations, and that's what you expect to see them in. You know, I mean, they risk it all, and then it's going up against these crazy monsters, and they figure out a way. So, and really kind of like all tied together by loyalty. If it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for them kind of being honest with the cadets, it probably would have went a different way. They try to hold it a little bit
Yeah,
closer to the vest, which they maybe they could have. They instead trusted them, and it paid them back. So
that's a
one
good
thing
point.
I do want to like talk on is seeing Gonki again. Like I just thought it
Oh
was
yeah,
so hilarious. Like that, I think that droid is the funniest thing ever because you have this high speed unit and then just this super slow power unit. Uh, with Gonki, it's hilarious. And Wrecker just puts him on his back, and the whole time you see is his legs like kicking like this. I thought it was so it was just comical, like amongst this kind of eerie backdrop.
you know the chargers that'll have 7 or 8 ports to like
Mhm.
supercharge everything, your computer, your monitor, your camera setup
Right,
and whatnot. Disney's missing the boat. We need a gonk. Just
we do,
give us a gonk to put next to our PCs,
we do.
and they'll probably put Nvidia out of business at that point.
Yeah, right.
Unlikely.
I was reading like was it a week ago or so, like I was wondering about this droid, and it was like I guess the resistance was using them as like improvised explosive devices when they were fighting the Empire. Like they would basically just load them up with explosives, and then they just like slowly walk across the battlefield, and nobody would really notice them until
Yeah.
they got to the empire, and whatever line that the Empire was on, and then just blow themselves up. So that was kind of like their main use after some time, and the Civil War and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that's funny. It reminds me of the segways that were blowing
yeah,
up for a while. It's just like
what are you
send
blowing
that
up?
in. Yeah, you didn't see that?
I
The
never saw
bad
that.
batteries.
Oh
Phones will sometimes do it. It's whatever the battery or whatever the power source is. If that's built poorly, everything inside of it causes it
right,
to blow up. So
right, right,
that's
right.
a good sneaky way. Send gonks into battle, and you could probably solve half the wars in the world right now just by
Yeah, nobody
with a
notices
gonk.
them.
Well, yeah, they start charging all their iPhones, and it could just be a charger. But then if they don't comply, then
Mhm.
goodbye. All right, getting into getting into war stuff. Next episode, and this is probably the best one for me, was we did Paths Unknown. This one was The Shadows of Tantus.
Mm.
And just got to give a quick recognition to the spider on the wall right in front of me because I want to capture it and kill it or remove it, but I am firmly planted in this chair and
Right.
don't have anything to go and get it. So when I saw Tantus, I was like, oh, that's kind of like tantalizingly close, and this
Yeah.
tarantula thing looking at me in the face. Anyway, side note tangent. Let's get into this episode because there's a couple things that right off the bat stick out. And
Huh.
the first one was it had the assassin like guy. We don't
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
have
yeah.
the name. What did you think? What did you think on that? What did you think just overall on this like beginning episode or just kind of any notes you had?
Yeah, yeah, I think a couple things is one. I mean, I paused I paused that and just kind of check out his uniform. I couldn't really see anything kind of like that stuck out to me though. I mean, he had some like yellow leggings. Like his lower limb armor was like yellowish. So, I couldn't really like piece that together with anything, but it looked as if he was, giving kind of some, he was giving maybe some orders for the day, to the clone commandos, and the TK troopers, and then obviously they were going to go out. But I don't know, what is he, what is he in charge of? That's what I'm wondering. Is he in charge of training? Is he in charge? Is he, in charge of, operations? Like, what's his deal? So clearly he's definitely integrated into the normal units, both on the clone commandos and then on the regular kind of line troops. But in what way? I'm wondering, like, what is he overseeing? What is he dictating? Obviously we know he's carrying out Hemlock's will. Is he in charge of security? Like, what's his deal? So I think there's a lot of unknowns there, and they obviously purposely left it out like that. But it's the same uniform and same armor that the assassin that tried to take out Senator Tucci had. So it's within that same kind of like group of clones, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
that are assassins, that type of stuff.
Yeah, because you do see it. I've got the image pulled up on the screen here. The commandos walk away from him. He's
Yeah.
got his arms crossed like this, as if he just kind of gave orders, and now he's got something else to do that's more secret.
Mhm.
This would just be right off the top of my head, but just kind of racking the list of clones that were potentially still alive, and then maybe it ends up being a former commander or a former ARC
Mhm.
trooper. Everyone wants it to be tech. If this is a organization or a group of assassins, I don't see him getting plugged right into that system. I would see
Mhm.
him as like having a separate role. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's definitely going to be someone named, and we can theorize all day, but they're making it. I really hope it's not like what it was in the Ahsoka with Marok, where it's just like, hey, we're going to give you this
Smoke.
masked character and smoke and mirrors and make you create content in the name of theories. But
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
see that right away, and you do see a bit of urgency in the entire facility because Papa Palps is on its way.
The town. Coming
Yeah,
to town. I just, his music like coming out, like, oh my gosh, I was like, it was just amazing, like, to see that that transition, that really ominous music that
yeah, the
he
Sith.
that has. Oh my gosh. Who was voicing Palpatine? Who, did you
I
see?
think
Because
it's Ian. I think it's Ian McDermott. Let me see.
it is okay. Because I know you called that before. I didn't know if that was the official one, but
That's just what I've been told.
yeah.
Oh, I hate how Disney does this when you go to the end of the episode and try and go to the credits, and then it pushes you to the next show. I don't know
Oh
if
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
super
yeah.
super niche problem to have, but yeah, I'll do some digging and research and figure out which one it is. But yeah, Palps is coming to town, and we can just start talking about Project Necromancer, because I think that's the biggest thing of all three of these episodes is just the stakes that has on the entire saga of Star Wars.
Right, right, right. Just real quick, I just wanted to throw it back. I just did a quick search, and it is Ian McDermott. Yeah.
Bam. Cool. Google is faster than Disney, so that's good to hear.
Which is awesome. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, yeah, Project Necromancer. I mean, it's I think this is going to tie in, like, obviously everything else that's out there right now. A lot of people want to know about it. Especially for the new trilogy. People want a little bit of history on that, and how does this apply? Like, where did this come from? For all those people that were like, "Oh, this is bogus," I think this is going to tie in and shed some light on exactly what was going on there and kind of what the origin was there. So yeah, I think that's just off the top of my head. I think that's the first thing that I thought about. I was like, oh man, I think this ties in a lot of things. Like, obviously it was a major program, considerable amount of resources they were diverting to it, and something that Palpatine obviously was extremely dedicated to during his time.
Yeah. I'll just play it out how I see all of these things coming together, which was the video that I made.
Yeah.
But I was watching a couple other recaps or reactions on YouTube last night, and they're just jumping to, oh, they're going to put like Omega's blood in the Snoke body, and Omega is what they need.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
see it as three-pronged in that they need to be like Grogu has a high M count,
Right.
so they need to be able to get Grogu safely into a corpse, which would be
Mhm,
like a Snoke-like corpse,
mhm.
in order for them to be like, okay, this can handle Palpatine's. But
Right.
then they also need Omega's DNA almost as like a conversion mechanism because she can help with the transfer
Right.
and reduce if and probably eliminate the loss of
Mm,
the M count because she's
mhm, mhm,
probably so it's not Omega, you know, Omega Snoke Palpatine. It's
mhm,
not Grogu Snoke Palpatine. I think it's
mhm,
both of them. And what they're
mhm,
trying to do is say all this stuff in the prequels, all this stuff in Mandalorian
mm,
is going to pull everything together. And then I go a little bit on theory end, but you see that and this was something I haven't read the book, but it was referenced. Snoke is referenced as an abomination. In this episode, they say that's an abomination. What you're working on is an abomination.
mm,
And so I look at Snoke as this abomination. Looks very undead.
mm,
And so I think it's not by accident that you have the Night Sisters and everything going on in Dathomir that literally
mm.
can raise the dead to where it's
Right.
like, all right, if we got Grogu, Omega, Night Sisters,
Mm,
is that the three-part piece that they need to put together to be able to make that successful transfer and start to make
mm,
Palpatine make sense? And I will give Disney credit for being able to pull these strings together. If you watch Rogue One, which was in 2016, so that was 3 years before Rise of Skywalker,
mm.
Mark Omega is one of the um, references or projects.
Mhm, mhm. Okay.
So you have Omega reference, whether it's Mark Omega as like a
Mm,
spaceship or whatever, but it's like you have Omega as a reference. They build that into Bad Batch, and they're pulling the pieces together.
right, right, right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah, I think something that's interesting is, obviously we have Palpatine. He, reanimates himself, or he, gets into his clone body. Um, I was finishing up and this is kind of like a little bit of a side, but it's still I get connected in a way. And the reason why I was thinking about this was because of all all the different Moffs or warlords that Moff Gideon is talking to, if you remember on the Hollows.
Yeah, the
Um,
Shadow Council.
the Shadow Council, yeah, exactly. And they were asking about Thrawn, this and that. Obviously, we know he's, where he's at the moment. He's in the kind of unknown regions, but um, is later on, right? They think Thrawn after he dies, they try to bring him back 10 years later, not in a clone body, but in a with basically an actor or a con artist that looks like him.
Mhm.
And everybody's kind of thinking that this is part of Necromancer. This is part of that program that they had. And now they've cloned Thrawn, right? So I wonder if later on down the line that kind of comes back as well. It turns out not to be a clone. It's just a guy that looked extremely like him.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, and I think like I think that's how significant Necromancer is, because it's going to tie in a lot of these. We're looking at Heir to the Empire with Jorah Sabaoth being cloned. Obviously Palpatine, and then all these other kind of known figures that they try to bring back. Much later. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I definitely think they'll continue to take inspiration from books, from comics.
Mm,
What I wonder is how much Project Necromancer is a project that is being worked on or that people are aware of
mm,
after the original trilogy.
mhm,
And so if you have Thrawn in the picture now or
mm,
like in the next couple years, I'd have to look at the calendar for all of this. Does he know of Project Necromancer and has he been clued in on that?
mhm,
And so does him coming back from deep space then
mm,
have them reinitiate that conversation of Project Necromancer? So it's almost like it was lost in the OT. Thrawn
mm.
coming back, he's like, no, this was the most important mission for us to work on.
Right, right, right. I think that like I know that they talk about that in Air. Like they didn't find out about Necromancer until, or Thrawn doesn't. I don't think he finds out about that until after the Empire falls.
Okay.
When yeah, so he finds out about that. He finds out about Tantus after the Empire falls. It was like one of these things that they were completely unaware of that, cloning chambers and all that stuff. And I think that he actually like tried to clone himself. He cloned like several other. Obviously, they like that's how they were even coming back. That's how they were getting the military, because they obviously they had built a bunch of clones. But he had. I think one of the things that he said was that when he tried to clone himself, it wasn't the same. Like there was something missing there.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't like, I think at a high level, like super. He didn't want to use that. He didn't think it was so functional for keeping himself like going, because that was one thing that that was part of he was interested in as part of his strategy, in case he died. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think anybody knew about Necromancer, and that's how secret it is. Obviously we know that, is that not even the Grand Admiral knew about that, or really anybody at that time. There's only like probably like 3 or 4 people that knew about it.
Yeah.
So
Cool. And I'm sure that kind of speaks to what would potentially happen at the end of this season. In order for no one to know about it, you got to have a lot of people die, because a lot of people know about it.
yeah, exactly. So if you find out
Um,
about it, you're basically gonna get killed right away.
yeah.
If that's,
Speaking of killing, I liked that they brought back. I guess Omega was stunning troopers, which was a big pain point last season. But
yeah,
Crosshair just says, "Hey, come a little closer,"
yeah,
and then bang bang shoots the TKs. It was
yeah,
nice to see some red coming out of the blasters as
yeah,
they're doing their escape.
yeah. It just murks them.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. That's one thing. And then they go back to his shaking hands again. And
Hmm.
she's like kind of looking at him like, and he's like, I can do the job. I can do it. Like, don't worry about me.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was super cool. And one of the comments that who is Star Wars fan 99? Who is that?
Star Wars fan 99. It's just a good trooper, part of the Republic.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's like, let's go steal the Emperor's ship. She just says, because she's just game for whatever. She's like, Emperor's
Yeah.
here. Okay, let's grab his ship. And Crosshair is like, okay, let's next idea.
Yeah. It's almost
But
like every business needs an Omega,
yeah,
just to be like, all right, let's send people to the moon. And it's like, all right, I like the idea.
right.
No, let's find something that is like in the middle. But
The
yeah,
skip.
she's always pie in the sky. And I mean, she did, like I said, she did escape. She
Yeah,
did make it work. And another thing I was thinking of just now, I like how she continues to see the best in Crosshair. She saves dogs, for the lack of a better term. Like, that's a good human
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah, absolutely. I just want, speaking of that, one, I thought it was super cool that she ends up with a pet. I think the squad has a pet now. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
And it was just, I loved how they tied that in. And I think it was just really neat, kind of add on there. But the what I really found super fun was to see how Omega was so like tied in with the Bad Batch's battle drills. Like
Yeah.
she knows everything. Like she's on point. And he asked her like, do you know what was it, Plan
70.
6076
Yeah,
7.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's
and she was
76.
like, "Yeah," and she just executes because she knows their battle drills, and then that tie-in gave me a little bit of a. I'm not gonna lie, it choked me up a little bit when they said, "Yeah, Tech made me learn all of them," and he was like,
Yeah.
"Of course he did." I was like, "Oh, what?"
Plan 72. I wonder if Crosshair knows Tech died.
I think he does. Well, I think he knows that he fell. He's got to know at that point because the way that it sounded like the way he said it was like they're thinking about him as like in like fondly.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. Did they
Yeah.
teach you Plan 72? 7, and then yeah. I feel like I'd have to rewatch. My memory's spacing on me, but my guess would have been Hemlock would have said something. It would have been like, "Oh, your friend Tech? Yeah, we found
Mhm.
his body." As they're interrogating
Yeah. Yeah,
Omega,
yeah,
maybe
I
to
mean,
break it a little bit.
100%, like, either, Omega said something like, "Hey, something happened to Tech. We don't know what happened. We don't know what the result was. We don't know if he's alive, he's dead. Like, what's the deal?" All I know, and then of course Hemlock is probably gonna, because he's trying to re-educate him. He's trying to break him. I wouldn't doubt that he says something to him. Of course, I think that's got to be like. I'm surprised he didn't put his helmet like right in his goggles inside of his cell or outside of
Yeah.
outside so he can see it every day. But I think that like that was like just such a good drop how they did that, and it goes back to not only the care that Tech had for his squad mates, but just like so cool to see how integrated she is now, and really is like kind of like took that training to heart, and to see how fondly like Crosshair still thinks of Tech and his squad mates, like even though everything that's happened, him
Yeah.
trying to kill them and capture them. So I thought that was super cool, but that was definitely like a moment where it was like, oh gosh, like that was you kind of like you think, and then you immediately think of when have we ever followed orders? I'm
Yeah.
like,
They showed that too in the preview, right? Like
yeah, yeah, oh my
previously.
gosh, that was such a great time, like the setup, I think, for
Yeah.
the episode.
So yeah, they start flying away. They're being chased down. They're kind of getting shot, but then Hemlock's like, "Holy crap, we got a positive on
Yeah.
Omega's blood. We
Mhm.
cannot kill her." Can you imagine if that happened? They like shoot her out, and then you just see the explosion. And he's like, "We just killed the only person that's going to keep me alive.
Right.
Palpatine's going to kill me."
Yeah. Yeah. At that point, it's just like this never happened.
I got to wrap this up, but also, why not use Emery Carr's blood if they're twins or sisters?
I mean, it seems like they're all kind of like different because they all have different mutations and stuff. So maybe they didn't. Maybe she didn't get that type of mutation.
I know, but I don't even know if they've tried. Like maybe try. Like I was just thinking,
Oh yeah, yeah,
if
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
Hemlock and I see Omega
Mm-mm.
as a match, I'm gonna look to Emery right there and be like, "Give me 10 pints right now."
Right. Yeah, we got to test you immediately.
Got to test
uh,
immediately.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so super psyched for the fourth episode. It's just getting better and better, and I mean, are we gonna see Alpha in the? Are we gonna see Alpha? Omega's brother in
Yeah,
the next episode, right?
I think so. I think they send every bounty hunter in the galaxy after him, and maybe this is one of the first times that Darth Vader
Oh,
uses Boba.
yeah. Here we go.
Right? They
That
obviously have a good relationship. And he trusts him a lot. So yeah, the last thing I would want is Boba Fett and Cad Bane trying to hunt me down.
oof, that would not be good. Yeah. No, and Fennec Shand.
Yeah, and
She's
Fennec Shand
she's gonna be
and
amazing.
Bosk.
Yeah.
Bosk is
No.
probably going to get out there,
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be crazy. So you think?
and Tobias Beckett maybe
Yep.
he'll be hunting him down.
So you're calling out bounty hunters in the next one?
Yeah, big bounty hunter vibe.
Gotcha. That's super exciting. Plug
Yep.
for the 30-day bounty hunters. Built like a bounty hunter, Boba Fett.
Yeah. If you want to get
All
built
that.
like a bounty hunter, do the Boba Fett one. If you want to
Yeah.
get fit for the Republic, do the Troopers. If you want to save Omega, even though she's already saved. So to that point, anyone still watching that is in Fit Nerd Academy, your mountain climbers to save Omega from Mount Tantus worked. So congratulations, everyone. Way to knock out your challenge. All right, we will catch you guys next week as we'll break down episode 4. Marcos, any final words?
No, just super excited and looking forward to the potential of bounty hunters. So yeah, I wish everybody
Right.
a great rest of your week.
Great rest of your week. CT 4526 and CT 3939 signing out. We'll catch you on the next Trooper Transmission.
Later, guys.